Green ammonia, as well as hydrogen, are often cited as an energy source of the future because of their capabilities in providing low-carbon energy. But what is green ammonia and what benefits does it have? Do we have technology or is it still initial phase? Do we have an infrastructure? Waves of Ocean Energy, together with the Ocean Industry Forum Sandefjord, invited Risholm, the CEO of AMON Maritime, to tell us about his experience with ammonia at the Norwegian Shipowners Association.
So André Risholm, it's a great pleasure to have you with us today. You are the first one to be interviewed in this series we are making now on YouTube. And it's a particular pleasure for me because I have known you since you were not that tall, but you were a student back in the days
right.
at NTNU. So why don't you tell us, this is the founder of AMON, or AMON. But before we go into AMON, the ammonia company you are running, perhaps you can tell about your student time, which is basically what has led you here somehow.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for being invited to this interview. I think we will have a good session. I studied marine technology, as you know, naval architecture in Trondheim at NTNU, which is famous for its very good student body, student environment, lots of fun stuff to do up there. I didn't know that before I started. My perspective was that I wanted to work with shipping, actually, especially on ship owning side. And I saw that having that technical but also kind of management leadership background was a good place to start. So I went up there and studied lots of courses in engineering, lots of mathematics. But the courses that I enjoyed the most was, making project, looking at the tying together an overall picture, like ship design courses, but even ship design tying together with logistics. That was what I thought was most fun up there. But I also spent a long time doing different fun projects on our free time together with other students. So we founded a maritime little investment company doing stock analysis and investing some small sums of our own savings. We founded a shipping conference up there, 2011, where we had Torolf Trøim and some other people come up and attend. And all of that fed into just being really excited to start my career in shipping, because it's like we all know, it's a people's business, and very global in nature.
Yeah, and I was at that conference, by the way. It was amazing what you did, and of course Mr. Torolf Trøim, he also has a study background from NTNU.
Exactly.
So I know that you had fun because I was part of that fun, but you also had fun being a student. Now going to Trondheim for you was going a bit far because you are from Egersund, right?
That's right.
That's far south in Norway. And then you ended up in the middle of Norway with NTNU. Now the journey from NTNU to where you are now includes Brazil. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, my let's say my relationship with Brazil started really in 2010, when I was looking into where to do a year of exchange, and I was being a bit strategic about it, thinking either I go to Svalbard, because back then, the Barents Sea was emerging offshore oil and gas and shipping region, with the Northern Sea route as well opening up. So that was one interesting region that I could kind of build an edge into something that was emerging and was kind of specialized. But the other option was Brazil, with pre-salt and these big offshore oil and gas developments down there. And between those two, I have to admit that I love skiing, but spending time in Brazil in the warm weather, learning about the culture and probably having more fun was what made me choose Brazil from those two. And then actually I spent my time there studying, but I also started working for Norwegian ship owner DOF in Brazil. So started 1 day a week, but eventually that took over everything. So in the end I was mostly working because that was more fun, and then came back to Norway. Finished
How many years did you spend in Brazil?
In total, between 2011 and 2019, I spent about 5 years in Brazil. 3 years living there, but also about 4 years traveling back and forth. So I would say in total a little over 5 years spent on Brazilian soil.
And back in those days, as perhaps again now, there was a big boom for Norwegian ship owners to go to Brazil, and a lot of offshore vessels were used in Brazilian oil and gas exploration. And then there was a downturn with all the scandals happening. How do you see Brazil now? Do you still follow Brazil as a market?
Not as much as before. Back then, when I was living there, of course, I was deeply into that market, and what I mainly was working on down there was some large shipbuilding projects for DOF and Technip FMC, joint venture pipelaying vessels for Petrobras. Those contracts had been entered into before because they're large, complex building projects over 5 years, and we kind of delivered those through the down period. So even though the industry was in a downturn, we were able to keep delivering new good assets and starting up operations. But it looks like it's now starting to come back, both the offshore activity all over the world, really, but also slowly the OSV market, which has been down now basically since about 2014.
So offshore supply vessel market. Just one thing, did you ever learn Portuguese?
Yes.
The language in Brazil?
I think I was quite lucky to first enter Brazil as a student. So I was able to learn Portuguese very quickly because I started off with 1 month intensive course, and then straight to engineering courses in Portuguese. So there was no alternative but to learn it very quickly. So then after 1 year I was fluent as an immigrant, but fluent to communicate in both privately and in business. And then once I came back working in Brazil and being an expat and so on, I already had the language. And I saw with many other people it's more difficult when you come down and you're supposed to start working very efficiently from day one. And most of your counterparts speak English, then it's hard to learn. So that was a big bonus for me to be able to learn as a student.
If any students would watch this video, this interview, would you say to them that they should consider learning Portuguese if they want to work with Brazil?
Definitely, for sure. And I think Brazil is a very interesting region to work towards if you're in the maritime industry. It will be it's one of the largest countries in the world. There's a lot of shipping, a lot of energy, also increasingly renewable energy. And just a great culture. You know, it's fun to be there, fun to work there. So I would advise people who have an interest into something like that to go there, but really just think internationally in general. Go to Brazil, but also go to China, go to Japan, learn new languages and cultures, and get to know something out of your own backyard.
But I guess Portuguese is not a language many people think about until it's a bit too late, when they realize that Brazil is a big market and Portuguese is a language. So that's why I'm asking you.
But I would advise anyone to do that. It has served me very well. Because not that many, I would say from a Norwegian perspective, not that many Norwegians speak Portuguese. So then if you have a specific, the language is not enough in itself, but if you have a let's say, engineering or business or law background, and you want to go into a shipping business, having a second language that's a bit specific to a market, that's a great asset.
Cool. But then at some point something happened to you, because you started AMON, and you have also moved to Sandefjord, which is not your birthplace at all, but you have relations there, I know. So perhaps, first of all, the story behind AMON. How did that happen, and what is AMON or AMON?
I can start with the last question. What is AMON? It's a project development company, essentially focused on ammonia fuel, building what we hope to be the world's first carbon-free shipping company. So let's say being carbon-free natively from the start, from scratch, not having a legacy fleet, but building the competence, organization and assets around ammonia as fuel, and only focusing on that. So that's what AMON is.
Interesting you say that. I guess you know Brim Explorer, the hybrid electric, diesel electric whale watching boats. Now they have made a fully electric one. And I was at the christening this weekend, and the day before, the Italian supplier of battery was there, an Italian brilliant person, and he said that he is approached from all over the world by people who want to turn a traditional boat into an electric boat, and he said he doesn't do that. And then they came and they said exactly what you say. Can we make a boat from scratch? We have the model, we have the design, but we want to make it electric from the beginning, not to go via diesel and all that. And it's an incredible example of how to do that. So this is what you do. You go ammonia from the beginning. You don't go via something else.
No, that's been the plan. I mean, I had been studying the various alternatives for decarbonizing shipping for a long time, and in my head, ammonia really came out strongly as the solution. Like, if the world is going to decarbonize ocean shipping, ammonia is the answer. I was quite certain about that for myself. And then the next question is the timing right? And do I just quit my very interesting and fun job and go for this?
So and what job did you have then when this happened?
Exactly at that time I had just finished being part of delivering 4 large pipeline vessels. I went into that project as deputy project manager and finished the project as a project manager for the whole thing. And then I transitioned into a role as a technical manager in the operation for DOF and Technip. And that was also very interesting to set that up. Over the course of 4 years delivering these vessels, we also hired about 1,000 new people and really built up something new down there based on complex vessels, complex operations. It was very fun, but then of course you enter into more steady state operations, and I had been part of what I thought was a great adventure, learn a lot of stuff, build new big things, and then I thought, okay, should I kind of go for a new adventure or let's say relax a little bit and enter the steady state of operations, and I was more motivated.
So kind of should I stay or should I go?
Yeah, I was living in Brazil at the time, and I decided, no, I think ammonia is the answer. I don't see that many people working on it yet, but in a few years I think everyone is going to be interested in it. If I'm going to start something from scratch with nothing to show for but my own experience, then I better start early, because there's no way for me to start this kind of late when everyone is talking about it. So
now I think we move into something that many people who watch this interview, especially younger ones, have the same dream as you have. Perhaps they have a career, they have a job, or they don't, and they consider to do something like that, to start your own company. But when you have all the benefits you have of being employed in a big company like DOF, like this was at the time, how did you think about that, and to quit your job and to start something new without any fallback? Did you have a fallback decision?
No, it was a big decision, of course. I really enjoyed my time in DOF. good colleagues, good management, good owners. I was given a lot of interesting tasks and opportunities. So that was really a dream job that I left. And I left it simply because the strong feeling of just wanting to do this just took over.
To be entrepreneur.
Yeah. So that's why I did it, because I had a great time and in Brazil. My life was amazing, but I just felt a very strong urge. And over some time, because I've always had, let's say, a little entrepreneurial bug, so I've thought about this a bit long term, had built up savings, little war chest, not enough to build vessels, but to say, like you say, well, what's the fallback? The fallback would be that I had some savings that I could support my family while I was doing this with no income.
Because you have a family as well.
Yeah.
And that, I guess that's a big thing when you have what we say from my school, Norges Handelshøyskole, Risholm school in economics, we say when you have Villa, Volvo, and Volvo, then you are doomed, because then you have all these obligations.
You have obligations, and they are good obligations, but it's also OPEX, high OPEX level, and that's I think that's a killer for many entrepreneurial dreams. I had managed to, even though I had a family, keep my OPEX a bit low, because I was a bit focused on that. But at the same time, you just have to give yourself some time. You have to accept that this might not work, and still want to do it.
So you jumped and you started AMON AS in Sandefjord?
AMON Maritime AS, but I actually started in Bergen, because Bergen was our home base when we came home from Brazil. That's our home base when we left. So we went home to Bergen, started up in Bergen, and then made the decision at the same time to move to Sandefjord. So then we bought a house in Sandefjord, and we made it like a 1 year transition for my wife to get a job in that part of the country, and all of this stuff.
For me, being half Bergen, and my name Kleppestø, Askøy, and all that, and all those years at my school. So you came back to Bergen because of what?
Because that was where I had our house, and it was our home base in Norway. So I had to close down the home base to start a new one.
This is Turgata 27 in Sandefjord, where André Risholm, together with his team, is running AMON Maritime. The company is based at the same building where back in many years the shipping company Cosmos had its office. I think it's quite remarkable.
Back to Sandefjord, you decided to move to Sandefjord because this is where your wife's family is from.
Yeah, basically. So of course, in the very beginning, starting company is very much of a family endeavor. Like you need the family behind you if you have one, and also long working days every day for a long time. It's good to have some more family support. So my wife's parents are there, one of her siblings, and so on. So being close to family, it's good to have that support system if you can. So
happy wife, happy life.
Exactly.
But what year was that?
That was in 2020. So
yeah.
Started AMON Maritime in 2019.
And the pandemic. How did the pandemic hit all this?
Yeah, that was, of course, very interesting time, and not something I planned for when I started AMON Maritime in the fall of 2019. So the company went live in September, and then March 2020, just 6 months later, the world closed down. And of course, I had been, planning that this was going to be a big journey of building partnerships, meeting people, and building this whole puzzle that you see that AMON Maritime is today. And then everything closes down, and the way that I learned to work in the maritime industry is relationships and meeting people in person and finding common ground and so on. So how do you do that?
Shaking hands, basically.
Exactly, and meeting people over time to really get to know them. And then I start my company, and then 6 months in, that's not possible. But then, as we all know, life continued, and the pandemic, I think a lot of people saw that what happens when you do all meetings over video is that you're able to do much more meetings and be much more efficient because you don't have that downtime with traveling. Meetings typically don't last as long.
So after the first shock, it actually helped you to meet more people?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah. I definitely think so. So we were able to create this puzzle of getting the right mix of people and companies to really imagine a new value chain for ammonia fuel, and to get the right companies on board with developing the vessels and talking with clients and so on. That turned out to be quite possible over teams as well.
And people relied on you because of your background, or you're a young man, and you started this endeavor out of scratch, basically. Plus, of course, your background and your legacy, but that has nothing to do with ammonia. So, how did people react to your idea when you contacted them?
I think it's in the beginning, of course, it's all about building trust and credibility. First of all, what you are doing needs to make sense, and you need to be able to explain to people why it makes sense. And then, of course, people need to believe that, okay, if I'm going to spend time on this person or this new company, I need to believe that they are going to be able to stay the course and actually make this happen. So in spending 6 months on a new founder and then they go out of business, that's not a good time investment for anyone. So you have to build that trust, credibility, and also belief in other people that this person is in it for the long haul. It's going to make this happen.
You had picked ammonia. Did you experience that some people will question your choice and say, no, we want to go hydrogen, or we want to do methanol, or we want to do bio?
Yeah, I mean, many people and many different companies had, let's say, some had clear convictions on something else, and if they have, then you quickly find out if there's not common ground, then we go our separate ways. But I think many people and companies at that time were kind of searching, looking into different alternatives, and many hadn't really gone that deep into it yet. I had gone quite deep into all of the alternatives. So when I explained why I believe ammonia is the solution, I could also speak in relative terms and saying, why is it a solution and not methanol? Why is that the solution and not compressed hydrogen? Why is that the solution and not liquid hydrogen or LOHC? Why do I believe in ammonia? So of course, I think some of the people we worked on, they understood that, and of course people get interested and start reading up on the same topic themselves, and I think many people, they built their own conviction. Some people maybe had it from before. So over time we were able to start working together with people and companies that believed in the same route. Some of them maybe believe in different pathways, but ammonia certainly being one of them.
Yeah, we are doing this recording in the house of the Norwegian Shipowners Association. It's a very proud association. But this is not the first time you're here, but because actually you and I met already in 2010 or 11 when you were doing a summer job here.
Yeah, that was 2009.
2009.
Yeah.
God, time flies.
14 years ago. So yeah, that was the first. I'm not sure if it was the first time I was here, but certainly the first time I worked here. I've been back many times since, but
and now you're a highly valued member.
14 years ago, I had a summer internship here, and today we're a fully fledged member of the association. So that makes me quite proud. And,
you look like a ship owner now, Andre.
Thank you.
If I may say so.
I'm not a ship owner yet, but one day.
One day. So going back to the timing, because many people who dream of starting a company, you know, either you have a timing on your side or perhaps not, and that can kill or not kill a startup. Do you think that the timing of what you did was very good?
In short, yes.
Yes.
And I believe it was good when I started as well, and that's kind of why I started, because I really felt the zeitgeist politically, especially in Norway and Europe, shifting around 2018, 2019, and I think actually these Fridays for Future was a big part of that, because you saw that the political discussion turned a bit away from this, yeah, we all agree there's a problem and we need to find a solution, to actually going into, okay, but what are the exact policies that need to come in place? So I thought that, okay, based on where we are now in 2019, I predict that over the next 3, 4, 5 years, specific policies are going to be put in place, making this hurdle a bit lower. I don't know how low, but when I started, I knew that the cost basis for clean ammonia as fuel versus conventional fuels was a big hurdle to jump. But I believe that the regulatory side is going to take that hurdle down, and eventually the cost curve is going to cross, and clean ammonia emerges as the lowest cost alternative. But we are far from there now. But that has happened since 2019. As you know, it's many different policies have been put in place, and I think the most profound one is EU's ETS for shipping on the maritime side specifically.
And ETS meaning?
That's the emission trading system, yes, in the EU, that has been in place for land industry for a long time. But now it's going to be expanded to shipping as well between 24 and 26, and that's going to have massive implications. So that's on the maritime side, and I think the biggest thing that happened on the, let's say, ammonia production side, that's the Inflation Reduction Act in the US. Totally shift the picture on producing clean ammonia to be a maritime fuel.
So many things have gone your way, basically, also from the regulatory side in both Europe and the US.
Gone my way, but in the larger picture, gone in the direction of actually making solutions to decarbonize industry and transportation.
Going back to AMON Maritime, so you had a plan to do something. Now what do you actually do? Because you not only have AMON Maritime, you have some other companies as well now in this group that you have created with some good people.
Yeah, our approach has been to be very focused on ammonia fuel, only that, with a small organization becoming really good at that, because we focus only on it, but within ammonia as fuel work quite broadly, and that's largely because we saw that
So André, you started AMON Maritime back in 2019 as one company, and now, as far as I know, you have many different companies. So can you tell about the development, what you're doing right now, and then just to have one thing clear, that LNG is now, you know, an old-fashioned thing in a way, but it's still something that works. And it took how many years? 20 years from the beginning of LNG until there was a complete set of network, you know, ecosystem, that you know that you can go around the world on LNG and you can fill up your vessel. And I know that for many years that was a big topic, almost like electric cars, you know, that can we charge the car if we run out of battery? So I guess the clue for ammonia will be the same, that you are secure and safe, that you can fill your vessel whenever you need it, wherever you are, at least you can plan it. So can you tell about what you're doing now and these companies and all that?
Yeah, no, that part is very important, and we are quite inspired by the history of LNG. Let's say both the good and the bad of that, and of course the starting positions for the two fuels are not the same either. But I can come back to that. But like I was talking about a little bit earlier, we have a narrow focus on ammonia as fuel, and just focusing 100% on that, trying to become really good at all of the aspects around ammonia as fuel, but then within ammonia as fuel working quite broadly, and that's largely out of necessity, because we started on the ship side. Can we develop a fully functional ship that operates without carbon emissions with ammonia fuel? And we concluded yes, and then started developing more detail, but we soon saw that, okay, we believe there is a client market there willing to pay for decarbonized shipping, but we cannot offer them that ship if there is no bunkering infrastructure available to fuel those ships. And we saw that...
So it's like a chicken and egg in a way.
Definitely chicken and egg scenario, and because the investments are quite large, the chicken and egg kind of has to appear at the same time. One can't really come before the other, maybe a little bit before, but basically at the same time. So we realized we have to work broadly with the value chain.
Basically, the distribution of ammonia has to be there before you can expect to have ammonia-run vessels.
Yeah. So you have to complete that fuel value chain, and the starting point, of course, is what already exists that we can use. And ammonia is one of the most transported chemicals in the world. There is a worldwide production bulk terminal shipping network. I think about 1/3 of the MGC LPG fleet is transporting ammonia. Of course, it goes up and down, but it's a big transportation commodity already. So that's a good starting point, because then you have regional and global trade, and you have in strategic locations these big bulk terminals. So it kind of looks like fuel distribution from refineries, like with diesel, only that you don't have the last leg. So what is missing is actually only the bunkering infrastructure, and that was different compared to LNG. So we have a very good starting point with ammonia, and then for us it was, okay, there are big companies like Yara that we have a strong collaboration with, that transports and produces this molecule, but concrete technical solutions, small scale, to put in a port to get this ball rolling, we didn't see anyone working on that, and we saw a need for someone to do it. And that's why we created Asane Fuel Solutions together with Econnect Energy.
Say again, you created
Asane Fuel Solutions,
Asane,
which is
Asane. So you have AMON and then you have Asane.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Asane is a specialized bunkering technology company, or really ammonia fuel handling company. So focused on developing solutions for processing, transferring, storing ammonia in a safe way and cost-efficient, flexible way.
Can I ask, Asane or Asane, does that mean anything?
Yes, it does.
Because when I read it the first time, I thought, okay, it's Asane Fuel Solution.
Yeah. Well, you know, Asane is actually now I'm going to sound a bit nerdy, but it's a nerdy name, and it's a cool name because most people just see Asane and yeah, it sounds like a fairly rememberable name, but it actually is a common name for all hydronitrogens. Instead of hydrocarbons, hydronitrogens. So for example, ammonia is the most common
of those.
Asane.
Okay.
So Asane is related to ammonia in that sense, but we chose it also because it sounds cool.
And when you took that name, nobody was coming to you and say, we have that name, or we have the brand or trademark, or?
No, we didn't find anyone that yeah, we had freedom to operate with that name
Okay.
from the
So Ascend Fuel Solutions is going to do what, and what are you doing right now?
It's a technology company developing solutions for complete solutions for bunkering ammonia.
So just you mentioned LNG, or I mentioned LNG, and we know that the bunkering of LNG, I have seen bunkering taking place a few places, and we know that it's very cold. You have all the ice being developing and all that because of the temperature, the low temperature. So you have different, not problems, but issues when you're fueling with LNG because of that. What kind of issues do you have when you fuel with ammonia, which is a very hazardous?
First of all, there are many similarities between LNG and ammonia when it comes to handling it as a fuel, because they are both gases that you cool down to make them liquid.
Cool gases?
Yeah. Refrigerated ammonia and refrigerated natural gas.
How cold is ammonia?
Yeah, that's a big difference, because ammonia is only minus 33 degrees,
Yeah,
so it's not cryogenic.
And just
like
to say, LNG is down to 163
yes,
minus.
That's right.
Which is very cold, you could say. So this is nothing compared to that. But
yeah, I mean, as we both know, you can go skiing in minus 33, so it's technically that's not that's an easier task to solve than minus 163. That being said,
then have the poisonous part of it.
It's toxic, highly toxic, and it's also corrosive. So those are the two main challenges with ammonia.
When you say those words, toxic and corrosive, it sounds like something really bad.
Yeah, and it is bad if you get exposed.
You smile because this is your business.
Yeah, but that is the challenge that needs to be overcome. But that's a challenge that will be overcome, and I'm absolutely certain about that. And like I said in the beginning of the interview, it's one of the most transported chemicals in the world already. So about 20 million tons of ammonia is being transported on ships every year. So taking it from one tank, transferring it to a ship, transferring it to another tank, that is happening all the time in the world already, and that's essentially the same thing that we are doing. But when it becomes a fuel, smaller volume each time, but higher frequency, and also less, let's say, specialized personnel. So safety needs to increase compared to the ammonia trade.
And some people have said to me that they doubt that cruise vessels will ever run on ammonia because of the high number of people on board.
Yeah, I don't doubt that, but I don't think that is the first segment.
No.
I think it will be proven over time on different vessel segments, and eventually start penetrating the cruise industry as well.
So you think so? Because what I said was that it will not be running on ammonia, but you think so?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think so, but not in the first years.
But just to put things into perspective, you say that today 20 million tons is being transported on vessels, not in vessels, but on vessels in a way. Do you have any figure, I guess you do, to what would be the world need for transporting using ammonia as a fuel compared to those 20 million tons that are being transported today?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and one thing that we, and I think many other people in the business, think a lot about in this perspective.
Yeah, it's a market size basically.
Because today the production of ammonia is about 180 million tons, but most of it is being used on site to create fertilizer. So it's a little bit over 10% that's being transported at sea. So if you're going to decarbonize global shipping with ammonia fuel, you're going to increase global production by a quite large factor.
Yeah.
But the relative share of that production being transported at sea is going to massively increase. So going from 10%, let's say that those new volumes is going to approach about 100%.
So basically we need to, if everything else remains the same with production of fertilizer, we need to produce much more ammonia. And will that happen, and where will that happen?
I think it will happen in the places in the world where you have the best natural, let's say, environmental characteristics for the place, and that also includes government taxations and subsidies. So basically the sum of your cost of energy, cost of CCS if you're using gas, cost of renewable
just
energy.
CCS meaning?
That's carbon capture and storage. So if you're making ammonia, clean ammonia from gas, then of course you bring the gas up, create ammonia, and you send the carbon back into the ground. That's blue ammonia. If you're creating green ammonia, then it's based on...
and that's what we want. We want green ammonia.
I think that blue ammonia is also a long-term solution as long as you get the CCS efficiency, the CCS percentage up very high.
Yeah.
I think that's a good solution as well.
And when you say, because we all know that LNG has always been seen as a transitional fuel, meaning it's a transition into something else.
Yeah.
And then you have the blue and the green ammonia. But do you think both of them can be actually sustainable fuels for the future?
Yeah.
Not transitional.
No, they are a long-term sustainable solution, both of them.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we are talking about decreasing CO2 emissions then with high efficiency CCS between 95 and 99%. So I mean, at that level, the problem is solved.
Yeah, I see. Now, being the nerd you are and being the engineer you are, we have something called energy density, which is quite interesting as well, because people say that the most efficient fuel we have is what we use today, diesel fuel basically, or fossil fuels. It doesn't take so much place or space, and is efficient in so many ways. And hydrogen and ammonia are very different in energy density, meaning you need much more space to store it on the vessel. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, that's a very important part, because as we know, the task of a ship is to transport something. Usually, if it's not some mission type of vessel that you see in offshore, but most vessels, they transport something, and you need to maximize the amount of the ship that's being used for payload. So of course, if the energy density of the new fuel is less than the one that you have to use space that you would otherwise use for cargo for fuel. Not increasing that space too much, that's an important factor, and that is one of the main reasons why ammonia is a better alternative than for especially compressed hydrogen, because it's the volumetric energy density. That means the energy density in terms of volume, not weight, is much better for ammonia than for hydrogen.
Yeah, and we can also say, for those who are watching who don't know too much about batteries, that at the time being, I have been told, and I guess you have been told as well, that if you were to have a deep sea vessel run on battery, you would have to have a separate vessel only as battery, to compare the sizes of the energy carrier in a way.
Yeah.
So that's a long way to go for batteries. But now we are back on ammonia. The social acceptance in society for this, do you see that changing over years now? And also, what countries do you see coming up as the most easy to go in with this thing?
I think when it comes to social acceptance, this is already one of the main chemicals being produced in the world. I mean, fertilizer for agriculture, that is a core component of the modern society. So ammonia is already at, let's say, a high level of social acceptance. I think the regular man or woman in the street, they don't really think about it, but it's around them.
But then you have seafarers, the ones who are going to be on the vessels, and also the people in ports who will do the bunkering. Do you have any idea how they are reacting to this?
Yeah, I think the reaction so far is some of them are very interested in the new technology, being part of testing out something new, and of course some are conservative, would like to see it work over time before they get involved in it. So I think that's just part of human nature, that you have the people who want to be first on something, and then you have those people that spend some more time. But I think over time the social acceptance that's linked to showing that it works and it works safely. That we don't increase the risk level in society by trying to decarbonize. But let's remember that climate change is also a risk in itself. So you're balancing risks, but our approach, isolating it to maritime safety, is that we don't increase safety. We don't decrease safety. We try to stay on the same level, introducing a new fuel.
You know, across the street we have School, that's one of the marine insurance companies. Do you have anything to do with them? I mean, there are many stakeholders in this. I guess marine insurance, you have banks, you have the ship owners, shipbuilders, equipment manufacturers somehow. So do you have to deal with all those stakeholders, or can you focus on only some of them?
I think over time we need to deal with all of the stakeholders. So far we we are discussing with many of them. I would say that the maritime schools is one of the stakeholders that our company has so far not had much contact with. But when it comes to creating standardized courses and so on, we have discussions with, for example, SGMF, is the Society for Gases Marine Fuel, that created the rules and the courses for LNG. So we are, let's say, on the topic of training and competence, but we have not had many discussions with maritime schools yet.
Have you met with politicians and discussed this issue as well? Because this is a highly topical thing for politics.
Not to a large degree, no. We sometimes meet them in seminars and so on, but that's largely part of. We are a small focused team, lean team focused on just running as fast as we can to make this happen. And policy is very important, but policy is one area where I think it's you're better placed as either a large company or an industry association to be able to spend time, approach and explain what we are doing. So we have not done that much directly, but of course we are members of the Ocean Highway Cluster, Maritime Clean Tech organization, Norwegian Ship Owners Association. So of course we try to get the word out about ammonia as fuel through those forums and others. But we don't spend much time directly approaching politicians.
André, when you started this, you were on your own and your family behind you, and you had some savings. That's not the case anymore. This was in the fall of 2019, so it's 3.5 years ago now.
Yeah.
So what has happened, and who are now your co-owners and all that?
Yeah, over time, you know, like you say, I started on my own, and then over time it has really been a task of setting the plan and then building a coalition around it, and that can be you know, partnerships, vendors, investors, co-founders. I have 2 people with me that we count as co-founders because they came in very early and have been a major part of building the company. New employees and also investors into AMON Maritime. So already in 2020 we got Mossvolds Rederi, which is the maritime investment arm of Glastad Holding, which is a quite large private investment company here in Norway. They got on board quite early and has, with both capital but also competence in their networks, joined this team of making this happen. So and after that, to an even larger degree than the private capital, we have been able to build consortia around making big complex projects around ammonia fuel happen, and have been able to secure some very good government grant schemes towards that. So especially 2021 was a big year for us. Then we were awarded both the Norwegian so-called Green Platform grant for the bunkering project, together with the ASEAN and Yara and port locations like Fjordbas and GOT and others, and for our short sea bulk project, Viridis bulk carriers. So those 2 projects are kind of trying to solve the chicken and egg dilemma at the same time. You solve a decarbonized transportation need and the fuel consumption for the bunkering, and the bunkering makes that possible. So that was about 16 million euros awarded to those projects to first develop technology and then pioneer it, build the first units.
What did that feel like for you? So short time after you started the company, you had some good investors coming in. We know them, and they're really good people, and they also give probably some credibility as well. Like they validate you and your concept. And then you got all that money to the company. How did that feel?
No, it's a fantastic feeling. When you start from scratch with really no money, no income, and this feeling that I might actually not be able to do anything with this.
Yeah.
But then over time, people are joining in different ways, and it always feels good when we're able to build a new partnership. And then of course capital is very important. So that is special in itself, because it's someone putting capital at risk to be a part of making this happen and showing that they believe in us. So both from the government side and from investor side, we are of course very happy about that, and it's important steps on the road to actually making that what was a dream, but today is much more of a plan, a reality.
We talk a lot about the Norwegian maritime cluster and Norway being a shipping country with everything you need basically. Do you think you could do the same in any country, or do you think Norway is a good place to do this in?
You could probably do it in a different country. I don't know, because this is where I come from and my home base. But definitely it is a very good place to start something like this, because just like you say, it's a complete maritime cluster with knowledgeable people, strong companies across the value chain, from technology, ship designers. You have specialized law firms, financial institutions, a lot of investors that are knowledgeable about this. You have big industrials, big shipping companies. So you have a very good base, and also a quite advanced society that wants to be early in developing new technology, and especially towards solving the big issues of our day, for example, climate. So you do have this support from both government institutions and financial. So that gives you that backing that you need, because something like this is not created by one person. It's created by many people from different backgrounds, different companies, and capital.
Like it takes a village to raise a child
Yeah.
But I just have a question to where you are now and where you want to be next. I mean, where are you now in development, and what is the next goal for you, and when will that happen?
We are finishing up developments of some of the vessel segments. One of the vessel segments is technically complete. We are ready to place orders with shipyards. What we need for those are the offshore support vessels, PSV, platform supply vessel, that we have developed especially with the Norwegian continental shelf in mind. That market is about 80 vessels, so it's not the largest market in the world, but a market that traditionally has been very innovative, early to adopt new solutions and adopt them in a certain scale. 80 vessels is quite large, so we see that as a very good place to start, and that's why we have taken that solution really all the way to the finish line. And as we know, the Norwegian government have some very strong ambitions for that fleet. They have said that within 2029, all of them are going to be zero emission. They have not yet put that into concrete policy, but they've stated that that is the goalpost. 2029, in my mind, those 80 vessels have to be replaced by new buildings. You don't get to zero emission without new buildings. You can't do it on a retrofit. So that's a massive goal. It's achievable, but then they need to make that into a concrete hard policy right now. So that's really what we are waiting for, because we made the solution for what they asked for basically. So now they need to put it in place.
So basically, politicians, they make promises, and then you are the ones to fulfill those promises.
Yes, we hope so. We hope to be on the same team as society.
So basically, you are going to be a ship owner as well now.
That's the plan, and that's been the plan since the start. Start with some vessel segments that's right for early adoption of ammonia as fuel. Build out the necessary infrastructure together with Yara, and go from there. I think this is the next paradigm shift in shipping, and over the next 30-40 years, you will see ammonia being just as available as a fuel in the world as diesel is today.
Okay, Andre, thank you so much for coming to us, and good luck to you. We'll support you all the way we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.